Over the past few weeks, the pop music scene and the fashion scene have been influenced by a new youth cult, the New Romantics or the Blitz Kids, whose devotees claim that their movement will be as influential as punk and far more positive. They're a mixture of students, fashion designers, musicians, and those with routine jobs that they escape at night by dressing up in extravagant costumes. As the Blitz Kids explained to Robin Denzelo, they regard their colourful movement as a positive reaction to a difficult world.
Tuesday night in Kentish Town, North London, and the art college student responsible for bringing fashion back to youth culture and enlivening London's nightlife in the process is getting ready to go out.
It's like making an occasion of the evening. It's like anything else. I mean, it's making a whole night of it rather than just going out. Because, I mean, dressing up gears the whole thing towards an extra special occasion.
Chris Sullivan is a clothes designer, a student, a budding pop musician, but right now is best known as a club organiser and party organiser for the New Romantics. If punk was all about rebellion, the New Romantics are all about style. To outsiders, or their more politically active contemporaries, this set bent on enjoying themselves seems scandalously decadent. The Romantics see themselves more as creative. At their clubs, they insist there should be no live music. That detracts from the individual, who should be a participant, not a consumer, of the evening's entertainment, and should dress to be the centre of attention. The architects of this curious, optimistic movement, now spreading across the country, are Steve Strange and Rusty Egan. They started the new club scene by running nights at London clubs like Billy's, Hell and the Blitz.
When you class something as a movement, it becomes a fashion. Although people are into fashion, with clothes and music, people can't term it as a fashion because people are always moving on. It never becomes stale. As when I was involved, say in punk become like a uniform, and it become very stale and very boring, and it turned into something that it was supposed to be against, and it become like a total uniform. Whereas where we are, the whole idea is complete change, all the time moving on, with the music, with the clothes, with the styles.
Is this all an escape from the miserable political and economic realities outside?
Nobody should knock fantasy, and I mean a lot of the people that come to these clubs, or what we were doing, were working from 9 to 5, but they were fed up with doing the 9 to 5 job. And it's not a political message, but what they were doing by coming out at 9 or 11 o'clock at night and escaping that 9 to 5 job and dressing like a Hollywood film star, or dressing and expressing themselves like self-expression and escaping that 9 to 5 route, which people shouldn't be knocked for.
Out in the streets of London, the staff of ID snap away at the ever-changing plumage of the latest youth cult. But is this a return to the heady days of the 60s or the more desperate escapism of the 30s? Behind the posing and the dressing up, the New Romantics are, at the very least, optimistic and creative. And at least someone's trying to dispel all the gloom.
Shame. Shame on you! You'll pay for this. Oh, I've got something in store for you. You'll wish you had died of pleasure before this day is done. Now you shall learn the wisdom of the lash.
Oh, please, haven't you done enough to me?
I'll do things to you that are beyond all known philosophies. Wait until I get my devices.
Duran.
In any way related to the social environment that goes on here in England. Are you trying to make a statement?
Yeah, we're trying to say let's have some fun. and that's it. No, nothing else at all, really.
You know, it's just good times music, you know.
There's no political views behind it or anything. Political bands with political messages who get up on their soapboxes and preach to people. Well, I mean, that's been going on now for about 4 or 5 years, and it's getting really boring. And people have to go to concerts and dances, and they go there to suffer. And we've got sick of that, so we think that people should go and have fun.
So your approach is basically, you're approaching it not such a serious.
Well, we're serious about the music and about everything that we do with it, but we don't need to bring political views into it. I don't think it's not such a social thing. It's just a band that's entertainment. People can go and watch us and have fun when they come to the gigs and listen to the records and everything, because it's basically dance music as well. So it's just much more fun.
It's more escapism rather than commenting on what's going on. It's more forgetting about what's going on and purely having a good time, as he says before.
First time in his long rock and roll career. Well, our final guest on Shake Up has had virtual overnight success with their current hit single, which has stormed up the charts to number 12. And I'm very pleased to welcome Duran Duran, well, Andy and Simon from Duran Duran, to the programme today. Hiya. Now, your latest single's called Planet Earth. We'll be hearing that in a bit. Duran Duran, it's an unusual name for a pop group. Where did you get that from?
Well, there's a film in the 60s, it's called Barbarella, starring Jane Fonda.
Yeah.
And it's a science fiction, spacey film. And one of the characters in it is called Duran Duran. He's played by Milo O'Shea. And he's the evil professor. He's going to take over the world and the universe with his great.
So that's where the name
came from, yeah.
People are sort of classifying music at the moment, aren't they? They're putting music in different classifications. You like this futuristic stuff and rock and roll and things. What do you classify your music as?
It's just night music.
Night music, well, that's what he came up with, isn't it? Yeah, well.
The truth is.
Sort of futuristic or what?
It's modern dance music, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
It's just modern rock music, but it's for enjoying yourself too, you know. It's like the singles, you can dance to it if you can dance. So,
what happened was in England we had punk rock, which happened sort of in 1976, 1977, and then after that I think there was a whole surge of new bands that decided they didn't want to wear tatty old ripped clothes anymore, and they actually wanted to make some sort of effort and make some more sort of tuneful music at the same time. And we had a return to good songs, and bands like Us ABC, Haircut 100 are just sort of now growing out of England and spreading across the continent.
In the same way that the Beatles and the Rolling Stones did in the 60s. Bowie was the innovator of the slightly offset stage show and that kind of the image thing. And Eno was the innovator of so many new sounds, especially with synthesizers. I mean, I suppose Eno was a little bit of an influence on you, wasn't he?
Yeah, at some stage, definitely. I think now we're influenced by each other more than anybody else does.
Our lives just evolved around music. All we wanted was to be in a band, and I knew that when I was 10, 11 years old. At that time your parents look at you and say, oh, that's nice, darling, isn't it? That's really nice, hoping you'll grow out of it. But with John and I, that just wasn't the case. We were writing out our potential tour schedules when we were sort of 14, 15 years old, where we'd play, trying to figure out how many trucks we would need for all the gear, what kind of lighting we were going to have, and what the tour program would be like, which was of course pure fantasy. But I suppose that determination and the vision that we had even at that time is what led to us forming the band. Neither of us could play anything. I think I picked up a guitar for the first time when I was 14 and started learning to play guitar, and John was also learning to play guitar.
I went to see Fashion at Barbarella's one night. I was in the audience and this rather strange band called Duran Duran trooped on as the support band. But I thought they were really good. I thought these guys, I could just hear this. They had something in their music that had this real pop sensibility, I guess, in the music. And I just thought that this band could be the next big thing out of Birmingham. I don't know why, I just had that feeling. And anyway, I went home and never thought anything else of it. And I had a mate called Andy Wickett, and he said, I'm singing with this band, I've just joined this band, but the guitar player, John, he wants to start playing the bass, and they're looking for a drummer. I said, okay, yeah, I saw him the other week, yeah, fantastic, I'll come down for the audition. So I set up with the band in there. John came over, he just started playing the bass, and he said, can you do funky hi-hats? I said, yeah, I'll give it a try. I tried trying to play these funky hi-hats. He started playing this funky disco-y bass, and that was it. So that's what got me in the band.
John was the first person I met, and Rog, and they played together like a rhythm section. I thought, well, that's good. And I'm like, where's the singer?
Yeah.
Oh, he's not here, on the holiday there. There was no singer.
I know you have 3 brothers in your band, is that right?
No, you're absolutely wrong.
How come they all called Taylor?
I don't know, maybe the milkman was the same.
Oh, really?
I'd had a punk band in 1977 called Dog Days, and I was up at university in Birmingham. I grew up in the suburbs of London, northwest suburbs of London, and I was up there. My girlfriend came with me, and we had a big fight and split up. There were other parties involved. I thought she'd gone back to London, but she hadn't. She stayed around Birmingham, got herself a job in a nightclub. Well, that's where she met Duran Duran, the band without a singer.
Right.
And so after about 2 weeks, I got a phone call, and she said, I think you really need to go and meet these guys because they're looking for a singer, and I think you might be just the person who could, close the ring. So I did. I went along there, and it was so natural, and it was so obvious that I was right for them and they were right for me.
Hey everybody, welcome to another deep dive series that I'm very excited about. Obviously, this is going to be a Duran Duran in the 1980s deep dive series, and I'm starting with their debut, which was released on June 15th, 1981 in the UK. It did get a reissue in 1983 in the US. They updated the artwork to reflect the new Duran Duran logo, which first appeared on the Is There Something I Should Know album. You have a new photograph. This is Duran Duran circa 1983, even if all the music, with the exception of the Is There Something I Should Know single, which they stuck on the end of side one. Everything else was 1981 from their debut album. I actually prefer this cover. This is the original cover that was released. Duran Duran were not happy with that photograph, but they did like, in general, the layout of the artwork itself. But the only difference between this original release, and by the way, this CD follows the track listing of the 1983 reissue, but the only difference between this and the 1983 issue, apart from the cover photograph and artwork, is the song To the Shore. Was originally on here, but they substituted it for Is There Something I Should Know? So basically, you have an album where there are essentially 8 songs from 1981 and 1 song from 1983, but whatever. It wasn't like there was a huge gap of time, and their sound had evolved so significantly that it sounds very out of place. But anyway, there you have it. Duran Duran. I got into Duran Duran probably around the Notorious album, and I hadn't really given Duran Duran much thought. Hadn't really been grabbed by their music to that point. Not that I didn't like it, but there were just other bands that I was into at the time. And then when I started getting into girls, and they were all huge Duran Duran fans, I thought, I have to check this out. I am all on Team Duran Duran, and revisited their catalog because all I had seen or heard were the videos that were all over MTV, and I found that their albums were very solid, very enjoyable. They're deep tracks in some cases I like better than the singles that they were releasing. As a matter of fact, even their B-sides that wound up on their 12-inch singles were almost as good, and in some cases as good as the material that they released on their studio records. So anyway, very excited to start this series. So just to give you a very quick backstory, because I'm already almost 20 minutes into this video without showing a single song from the record. But basically, Duran Duran was started in the late 70s by Nick Rhodes and John Taylor. They had a revolving cast of band members, bassists, guitarists, lead singers. They auditioned and eventually hired Roger Taylor and Andy Taylor, no relationship at all, which was something that I did not learn until later. I always thought they were brothers, and then I was disabused of that notion quite a while ago, but there was still a period of time where I thought they were all brothers, like the Beach Boys or something like that, but nonetheless. So they auditioned and hired Roger Taylor and Andy Taylor, and then fledgling actor Simon Le Bon was encouraged to try out as a lead singer for the band, passed the audition, and the rest, as they say, is history. The album was recorded over a 6-week period starting in December of 1980, and Simon Le Bon was really struggling to get his vocals down. He was not a seasoned studio professional, so going into the studio for the first time, he really had trouble laying down the vocals to the point where the record label was ready to kick him out of the band because they needed the band to get the album out, and he was having some difficulty. But very fortunately, the record company was persuaded to have some patience with Simon Le Bon. I'm glad they did. He's a great lead vocalist. But the songs on this album, you can tell, were very heavily influenced by bands like Human League, Spandau Ballet, Roxy Music, David Bowie, disco, funk and R&B, bands like Chic. That imprint is all over early Duran Duran. Bands like Japan not only helped influence Duran Duran's sound, but also their image. And Duran Duran were very transparent about their influences. They weren't trying to claim that every single thing they did was original, but they were able to put it across in a way that appealed to the masses. And they really were back then kind of the new wave Beatles. And they started a new British invasion in the early 80s. And one of the reasons why this record sounds a lot like Human League and David Bowie is because Colin Thurston, who had produced albums by both those artists, was brought on as producer. What a brilliant choice. The album hit number 3 in the UK and number 10 in the US, which not bad for a first showing, but definitely not the chart positions Duran Duran would become accustomed to even a year later. All right, so anyway, enough about the backstory. Let's get into the songs on this great album. And it opens with Girls on Film, which was probably the first Duran Duran song that I had ever heard, but it's very catchy. The lyrics are very much in keeping with the new romantic theme, models, fashion, celebrity. And this is the first example of that new wave disco hybrid that Duran Duran perfected so well. Catchy song, great chorus, great lyrics, but this is kind of like Duran Duran's I Want to Hold Your Hand, one of the first songs that broke them big in the US. The next track is Planet Earth, and this is more disco-y, new wave. This was the first single off the album. This went to number 12 on the UK singles chart, and it hit number 8 in Australia, which was their first top 10 hit anywhere in the world outside the UK. It starts out with a sequenced electronic rhythm, but then the drum and the bass kick in, and it sounds more like the Duran Duran that we're familiar with. Cool vocal from Simon Le Bon, great catchy background vocals, a fun and cool dance pop track. Is there anyone out there, depending on which version of this release that you have, is more of a straightforward rocker? You do have some synthesizer flourishes, but it's more kind of a new wave rocker in the style of the Cars, not so much a disco-y track. Careless Memories was the second single that was released off of this record, not as popular as Planet Earth or Girls on Film, the third single, but it has its place on this album. A faster paced dance track, moves along at a clip. For some reason, I always get the feeling of being on a subway or something, or a train when I'm listening to this song.
So soon, just after you're gone, my sense is sharpened, but it always takes so damn long before I feel how much my eyes are darkened. Fear hangs a plane of gun smoke, drifting in our room. So easy to disturb with a thought, with a whisper.
To the Shore is a song that was left off the release in the US. As a matter of fact, if you go on Spotify right now, the version of this record that you get is the version that has Is There Something I Should Know, which just baffles me. To the Shore is a great song. It starts off with this lush synthesizer fanfare before it settles into the full band accompaniment. But it's a slower, moodier kind of song. I could see this song kind of fitting better on Rio, but it was definitely foreshadowing the music that was to come. It's a decent song. Is it necessarily as catchy as anything else on this record? Maybe not, but it's still a worthwhile song that did not deserve to be cast aside. Side 2 opens with Night Boat, and it's very cinematic, very atmospheric, lush but dark synthesizers. They actually revisited this song on their most recent album, Dance Macabre. But there's a very sinister tone to the song that I love. Simon Le Bon's vocals are so animated. I love Night Boat. Of all the songs on this album, I think that Sound of Thunder is the most obvious Japan ripoff. Listen to any of Japan's album. They sound basically like this. And it's a great song, don't get me wrong. It's melodic and it's catchy, but it's very much a Japan song. They would reuse this intro for Hold Back the Rain on the Rio album. Otherwise, it's just classic early Duran Duran.
My
Friends of Mine is another mid-tempo dance song. There's washes of dark synthesizer, kind of an exotic tone to this song. A cool R&B disco beat, more animated vocals from Simon Le Bon. Tel Aviv closes out the album. It's an instrumental. It almost sounds like it should be the soundtrack for something. I'm not sure exactly what. Swooping and soaring strings and synthesizers. You can tell they kind of wanted this to have an epic quality to it. Almost a bit like Fire on High or something from ELO. And you can either say Duran Duran were not afraid to include instrumentals on their albums, or maybe Simon Le Bon just couldn't think of any lyrics for this one. I don't know. But anyway, I think it's a cool way to close out the album. Not my favorite song here, but personally, I might have substituted this for Faster Than Light or Canada, or maybe even the cover of the song Fame that they released on their 12-inch single. But not my decision to make. But anyway, hope you've enjoyed this deep dive. Let me know your thoughts on the debut. Looking forward to doing Rio next. Hope you're doing great, and take care.